All right, enough of that. That didn't seem to be working. The countdown clock paused there. What the heck?
I was jamming out to the music.
Yeah. So let's see. I did see YouTube go live here, so we're good to go here. But hey, it's your old pal. It's the weekend, technology and stuff. But we've got a fun slate here. We have the Belman slate. Everything tips off by 8:30 tonight. So this is the classic. Oh my God, everything is happening. Fortunately, this works out for me. There's only one 7 o'clock game. So even if I don't get my lineups in, I'll be okay because I'm only missing that first game. Are there plays I would like from that first game? You bet there are. However, I will forego those in order for us to have a good show. Matt, I am a man of the people. How did last night go for you? Did you score 7,000 points and not cash?
So I'm on a nice run in DFS right now. No takedowns, but I've had some pretty good success, it seems like, every night recently. So last night I played 3 lineups, happened to sneak 3 of them in the cash in my biggest contest. And that's with Jokic and 4 OKC guys. And I was happy to just sneak in. My lineups, again, 395, 385, and 384. The 395 one was like in the middle. So like that one was in the cash solid, but the other 2 barely snuck in, didn't cash in a couple contests. Just one of the craziest nights you'll ever see in NBA DFS. Not only was there so much value, like all of it went off. All of the good mid-tier plays went off. And then Jokic going for 100. I mean, can't ever remember a slate like that before.
Yeah, I was crushing on Yahoo, but I didn't get into any of the contests. So I was only in a few leagues, which kind of sucked. And then I went to bed because it was like, oh, my bet on Hard Rock isn't going to work. I needed 25 from Durant and 25 from Jokic. So I was doing an MLB season-long draft, and I went to bed. Then it was about halfway through the fourth quarter. I woke up, because I'm old and I had to take pee in the middle of the night. I looked at my phone and I'm like, oh my God, this went to overtime. And then I look at the triple double. I'm like, oh my God, a 2020 triple double. How did that happen?
How about this craziest stat I've heard in a while? I'll read this and then we can talk about the slate. So with 10 minutes and 22 seconds left in the third quarter, Jokic logged his 29th triple-double of the season. So, like, right at the beginning of the third quarter. He had 13, 10, and 10 at that moment. After that, he logged another triple-double. He had 18, 11, and 12 the rest of the game.
Oh, my God. I didn't think of that.
How crazy is that?
Yeah. That is just wild. That's a great stat. That's a great stat.
I mean, that is like mind-blowing, like how the hell does that even happen type shit right there.
Yeah, that to me that's like the 2 triple doubles in the game. 2 legit triple doubles in the game. I mean, how that's like hitting the grand slam from each side of the plate.
It is like Tatis like.
Yeah, Tatis, yeah. Holy cow. All right. Well, what are we going to do for an encore? I don't know. But and to finish up the story, I lost about half my entry fees on DraftKings and 25% on FanDuel. Had a good night with my sports wagers and then almost tripled up on my $30 in play on Yahoo. Ooh. I'm so mad I didn't.
Better than not tripling up.
Yeah, this happened. Yeah, much better than not tripling up. This happened to me on one of their days when on Fridays, sometimes they'll include those early games, the 6:35 games. So I didn't get in any contest. I got third in their free roll that day. And I won the quarter. I won all this other little crap that I was in, but I went to go put them in at like 6:45, 6:50. And I'm like, oh my God, I missed out. And of course, that was the night I just had. Perfect lineup, basically. But baseball's around the corner. That's not tonight. Let's get into tonight's action here. We've got, of course, over here on playback. Looks like everything is good to go there. We've got, some fun going on here on the main show. We've got some potential promotions here. We'll talk about those in a bit. And then we've got, who doesn't want to talk basketball? So let's get into this. We're going to go by position today, but we're since there's a few more games than there are normally, but that'll give us a chance to get into the big news that's probably going to be 6:30 for some of those 7:30 games. So we do have some.
We just got some.
Yeah. So Tyrese
Halliburton. Yeah. Go ahead.
Santi Aldama is out. Benedict Mathurin is returning. I think he's been out for about 4 games. He was dealing with the sprained left wrist. What else do we have? Chris Boucher is playing. He did not play last night. He had some sort of dental or tooth issue, but he's available tonight. Scotty Barnes popped up on the injury report today. He is available tonight. He is dealing with a bruised, I think it's his shooting hand. Trae Young is in. And then what was that early game? Brooklyn and Charlotte is the early game, but that just tipped off, so we don't have to worry about that. Fred VanVleet still out. Bruce Brown getting rest. That is the Houston, New Orleans game. For Toronto, they're still without Akbaji. Mobo and Emmanuel Quickly is resting tonight. He had a phenomenal game last night. He had 50 fantasy points and was just stellar, but they're giving him his first night off in about a month since he returned from his injury. Jacoby Walter, the rookie, had a heck of a first half last night, got quad bruise early in the third quarter. He is not playing tonight. Rashawn Holmes and Jordan Poole are both in. Holmes had missed the last game. Poole's missed about 4. I want to say it's an elbow issue on his shooting hand or shooting arm in that case. And let's see, Halliburton was big. Oh, Giannis popped up today with an illness. So we'll have to find out what's going on there. That is an 8 o'clock game. And then the other 8 o'clock game is Chicago and Miami. So we have questions there, mostly around Lonzo Ball, probably not going to play. Nikola Vucevic hasn't been ruled out yet, but it's doubtful that he plays. I think he's missed 7 games now with that calf issue. And then Andrew Wiggins for Miami dealing with the sore ankle. And then the late games, these are 8:30, including the ABC game, which is the Lakers at Boston, per whomever I was reading on it must have been ESPN. This is the first time these two teams have played when they're both ranked as highly. I think they're both second in their respective conferences right now, this late in the season. So that's kind of fun. But we know that Kristaps Porzingis is dealing with an illness. Jrue Holiday, at this point, the old guy just ain't what he used to be. I'm not expecting him to play. Jackson Hayes is likely out. Rui Hachimura remains out, but Doncic and LeBron are off the injury report, as is Markieff Morris. And how can we forget Markieff Morris? Because he was on that last Lakers championship team during the COVID season. I think that gets us through everything. Anything I overlooked?
I don't think so. Obviously, the Giannis news is probably the biggest, but we just got maybe the second biggest in Halliburton being out. We read this book a couple days ago. All the Indiana guys got there. Now you throw Mathurin in the mix. It does muddy the waters a little bit, but there's a lot of good plays on this slate. It's not like last night because no slate will ever be like last night, but it is a slate with a ton of good value plays.
So the reason it won't, it could be like last night. We could get, tomorrow could be like last night. We could get a Jalen Williams triple-double, but not that Jalen Williams triple-double.
Yeah.
If I told you at the beginning of the season Jalen Williams was going to get a triple-double, I don't think that's the one you would have picked.
There just aren't teams that can sit their whole team and still have players good enough to do what OKC guys did.
Yeah, that is just absolutely crazy. So we just had a projection update about 30 minutes ago, so you guys can see what's going on. Luka and Giannis stand out clearly at the top. We've got on FanDuel, they flip-flop. Cade Cunningham is lurking. Cunningham continues to be phenomenal this season, but tougher defense going against the Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, not so much Steph Curry, but the Warriors. Take us through the top here, Matt. What do you like at the guards? And we can include Scotty Barnes as a guard, even though he is eligible. I have him on my season-long team in Yahoo that I play with a bunch of idiots in Australia. I hope they're not watching. A bunch of funny guys in Australia. Funny because I think I like the way they talk. He is eligible at every position except for center. How crazy is that? And he plays the nominal 5, which could happen tonight. So what do you like at the guard position?
So a bunch of good guard plays here. I'll start with Scotty Barnes because he's coming off a monster game. Gets another really good matchup with Washington. Projected for a lot of fantasy points and projected for a lot of ownership. I did not play him last night. Managed to get by without him because so many guys were good. I wish I had played him, though. I played Levine over him. Levine was a little bit more expensive, scored like 5 less fantasy points. Levine was still really good, but the point is that Barnes was great, and he projects great again tonight. My worry, which is why I decided to get off him at that ownership last night, is we've seen Toronto like scale back their minutes on guys on and off recently. So you never know when it's coming. But against Orlando, in that second game against the Magic in Orlando, their starters did not play the end of that game that they ended up winning because of that Walter 3. I'm worried about Barnes on a back-to-back here. I understand he projects really well, but on a back-to-back, they got some guys coming back. I'm more worried than the field is about Barnes here. How do you feel about him? Do you think he's just a lock-in and move-on type play?
So, sort of. And he actually was he got the write-up yesterday, and RJ Barrett got the write-up today in the DFS Building Blocks article. But I covered, all of Toronto yesterday with those with Pirtle and Barrett out and what I thought was going to happen. And then tonight I went with Barrett just because he's a little cheaper, and I don't like riding up the same player twice. But for Barnes, my biggest concern with him is they're really kind of keeping him in the low 30s minutes. And when he popped up on the injury report earlier, I was like, oh, I should have seen this coming. Of course, protect their asset. Just don't have him playing on back-to-back games. For Toronto, I think it's less about tanking, and it's more about just making sure people are healthy, because for where they are for the season, they can't really do a whole lot to dramatically improve their lottery ball situation. But Barnes has led them to 3 straight victories. I mean, they won 2 games in Orlando against an Orlando team that's trying. They won by both games combined by, I think it was 3 points or 4 points.
He sat in the fourth quarter of that second game, though.
Yeah, and he didn't play. So it comes down to the minutes. And what is he going to do? Last night he got there because he had 5 stocks. So that really helped out. He's going to have the ball in his hands most possessions, but yeah, I'm a little trepidatious that his super ceiling needs to be a similar outcome as last night to get him to 50 fantasy points. I like him obviously much better on DraftKings, where I think he's like 7,700 or 7,900. He's more expensive. I think he's almost 9,000 on FanDuel. So I think he's fine on DraftKings, but you start to get just a little nervous, and then you realize, he's playing the Wizards, right? The Wizards will magically give him fantasy points. But long way of answering your question. Little worried because of the back-to-back. Just a hint.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I think more worried than you, but I don't want to poo-poo his night. Like, he did end up having the massive upside game because of the stocks, but he also had 22, 12, and 6. And no quickly tonight, as you mentioned. Now Barrett is back. Barrett, I think, is the guy I like most there. He's shooting guard eligible. We'll get there when we talk about shooting guards. But after Barnes, I mean, I think the guy you really need to look at is Dame, presuming or thinking that Giannis might be out. I don't really like using guys against Orlando, although recently we've seen some upside games against them. Steph Curry, Kobe White come to mind. Without Giannis, Dame playing well right now, he would become a lock for me.
All right, fair enough. Right now he is 5% on FanDuel, and he is about 2% on DraftKings. So it's going to take everybody pivoting.
And I will say, Tough to say he's a lock just because we have Toronto guard value and we have Indy guard value now, which hasn't shown up in the projection. So I will like him a lot, but to call him a lock is probably strong.
So let's talk about the let's kind of wrap up the Toronto value at the guard. So you've got rookie Jamal Sheed. This could be his second spot start. We don't know for sure who's going to get the start, but with who was ruled out? Jacoby was Walter.
No Walter or Dick.
Yeah, and obviously, Grady Dick is out, and Abaji is out. So the guess is that it's going to be Sheed, and he's a fine play. In his last spot start, which was early in February, it's a little over a month ago, he played 30.5 minutes with 22 fantasy points. So I think that's kind of a reasonable outcome, and that's actually an okay salary for his, or an okay price for his sub 4K salary on the two sites, 3,500 on DraftKings and 3,900 on FanDuel. I think that he has attainable upside to 27, 28 fantasy points within reasonable expectations, but he could also just dud and put up like 17. Now, again, I don't think that's going to end your night, but this is a little different than some of the value plays we had last night. We have an unproven guy, I think he was second round pick, like 44th or 45th overall. I think when I was looking at him earlier, I think he played for a couple different colleges. So he's not the overly pedigreed guy coming in, but he's a good value play. You get a starting guy that's going to be more or less running the point. Even if he's not scoring, he can facilitate, he can get some steals, etc. Just those minutes are so valuable. So I think he's okay. The guy I'm not as sure about is AJ Lawson. I wasn't expecting him really when I was looking at things earlier today, but he's the flat 3,000 on DraftKings. How do you feel about him? How do you feel about Sheed?
I like Jamal Shed a lot.
Is it Shed? Sorry.
Yeah, I think this game is perfect for his skill set. He came out of Houston, very defensive minded, and Washington we know is sloppy. So I think this is a high upside spot for Shed. The ownership is there. Like, I'm not sneaking up on anyone. He's projected to be actually the highest owned player on the slate. I think he's just a plug and move on type of guy in this spot. Your points, though, are well taken, though. It's not like he's crushed it from a fantasy perspective. I do like him, though. I like the cheap guys for Toronto. I'm a little more cautious on Lawson as you are. He is 3K, though, and he projects for 22-plus fantasy points. Actually, at this moment, the highest leverage player on the slate. That will change now that we got some Indiana news. Waiting for projections to update there. But I like the idea of going with the cheap Toronto guys because I'm worried about the minutes here for even like the Barrett and Pirtles of the world. I think everyone's going to just flock to Toronto because of what they did last night. I'm more leery. I like Shed. I like Lawson. And I also like Jared Roden, 3K. He also projects to be, under-owned here at 14%, 23% chance of being optimal. I like the cheap Toronto guards, just not exactly sure how to choose between them. I like Shed the most, though.
Sure. And if we look at AJ Lawson, so he's bounced around to a bunch of different teams in his 3 seasons. He has played in the last 3 games. He came off the bench for 14 minutes in the first of the 2 games in Orlando. Missed both his shots, like no fantasy points in 14 minutes. The next game, he played 26 and a third minutes, had 13 points, made 5 of his 6 shots. And then he played last night and played 27 and a half minutes, 2 for 13. So he got some usage there, but again, nothing super exciting about sort of the same analysis for, if you told me which, one of the 3 cheap guys for Toronto had 27 fantasy points and the other 2 had 17 or fewer, I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't know for sure which who had the 27 is more or less what we're trying to get here. So let's talk a little bit about Indiana, and then we can work our way back up the pricing sheet. So I am not really a fan of TJ McConnell. Previously, yes, absolutely. 3 years ago, this would have been TJ McConnell, 90% of our lineups kind of night. That's not who he is anymore. I mean, he's almost 33 in 2 weeks, he turns 33, and he really kind of plays about 20 to 22 minutes. Now that's been slowly ticking down below 20 and into the mid to upper teens when Halliburton's been healthy. In the last game, he played 26 minutes, but it took a little towards the end, where in a game where they were losing, that he was out there. Otherwise, I don't see him really going for more than 22 to 24 minutes. And that's hard because he has to get points. He hardly ever takes threes. He mostly gets steals, a few rebounds, and then it's got to be scoring on 2-pointers. And he's fine at, assisting the ball, et cetera. But he's not, his salary isn't low enough that I'm rushing to get there. And in the last time when we had Halliburton out, I wrote him up as like a potential trouble spot, similarly to how I wrote up Alex Caruso yesterday, and just saying, when the field's this far out over their skis and we have someone that it's a much more likely chance that they don't get 20 fantasy points than it is they get 30 or more, these are spots where you want to plant your flag. And he's one of them. So I'm curious to see where we get to on
I couldn't disagree with you more on McConnell as a whole, and that he's more likely to get you less than 20 than 30. I just disagree with that premise altogether, even in low amount of minutes. That said, he's 4,800 now. So you need more minutes here. He's certainly not the must he was for me at 3,900. And even at 3,900, he was good last game, but at 4,800, he wouldn't have been.
All right. So you guys don't like the size of the screen. You think that the stuff's a little small here? We were just giving away the projections and all access stuff for $1, towards the end of February. We've given you all sorts of deals. It sounds to me, Matt, like I'm going to have to talk about a deal here. So we have the
people love deals.
Join. I love deals too. I mean, it's very, very exciting. So we've got the link join. So I'm going to drop this into the chat here because this is still a great deal, and we've added some options for you. So let's put that into the chat. Key things that you guys want to know is we now have 13 different opportunities for you to sign up and get 1 month of all access sims for the sport of your choice. All you got to do is, like the instructions say on the screen here, choose from one of the operators below. You got to use the link that's there. Sign up with our offer, deposit and place a bet, create a pick 'em card, whatever the site may be. Take the screenshots of your welcome email and your first settled bet or pick 'em card, and then email support at Stokastic with the screenshots, and we'll get you set up with 30 days of Stokastic Premium. The ones that we just added are Chalkboard and Fanatics. So Fanatics has a really nice sign-up deal. You can get up to $1,000 in bet credits from them. Chalkboard gives you $100 when you sign up. That's a deposit match up to 100, and then you get a free square on the day you sign up as well, which is basically LeBron James scoring half a point or something like that. So these are really good deals. So you guys want to think about that, because then you get all of the projections on your screen and you can size them however you would like. Pretty tricky there. Pretty tricky. Let's see. I'm turning you loose. What else do you like amongst our guards? Since we hit on the value, we disagree a little bit on the indie value.
Yeah, I actually like McConnell even more than I thought at 4,800. I mean, he projects for 28 fantasy points, 28 and a half fantasy points. Good match against Atlanta. He's the type of guy that he's going to produce when he's on the floor. It's just a matter of whether he's going to play the minutes. And he's probably not going to play a ton. He never does. You got Mathurin back, but no Halliburton. I mean, you're talking about him playing when he's on the floor, all point guard with the ball in his hands. So I like him. I love Nembhard, 5,400. He's just good. Point guard and shooting guard eligibility. I think you just load up on Indy again. I mean, Toronto also looks good, but I like the cheaper Toronto guys. I like all of Indy. Nembhard, priority for me. McConnell looks good. Yeah, that's kind of how I see guard now, especially because we got Giannis probably in now. So no Dame. Really just the Toronto guys and Indy guys for me from a guard perspective.
All right. We should be getting an update here shortly. So let's look at.
We just got one.
Oh, did. Well, maybe that'll get refreshed here soon enough. Oh, on the projections.
Looks like not ownership yet, just projections.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there with ownership, so I'm sure they'll be up shortly. So 2 minutes ago there was projections update. Let's see, look at the guards, and then we can just quickly look at value here. So Sheed and Lawson are 1 and 2, Barnes and Barrett 3, 4, and then Jared Roden is 5. So our guards, the top 5 from a value, which is fantasy point per dollar with a little twist there, all come from Toronto. And then your guy, TJ McConnell. Look at that, Matt. It's like you've done this before.
Yeah, I'm surprised at your TJ McConnell take. Like, nothing you say really surprises me that much, but that one, I'm not going to forget that one anytime soon.
So we're projecting.
What do you have against McConnell? Like, I don't
20.9 minutes. That's what we're projecting him for. We're projecting him to be incredibly efficient.
And to your point, he's going to be owned. So, like, as I mentioned before, at 4,800, he's not nearly the must play for me he is at 3,900. I mean, it's a big price increase. So I still think he's much more likely to score over 20 than under 30, but over 20 at 4,800 doesn't do it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 21 minutes, 12 points, 3 rebounds, almost 7 assists, and 1.5 steals. Okay. 20.9 minutes. It's a lot of production to get in there. Let's look at let's see if we got any shooting guards we didn't mention here. So we got RJ Barrett. Chat's asking RJ Barrett. Let's talk RJ Barrett. So Barrett got a night of rest last night, as did Jakob Poeltl. Poeltl missed about 8 games with a hip pointer. Barrett had never truly the picture of health, but he'd been relatively healthy. So that was just more of a rest night for him, which is, when Scotty Barnes popped up today, I'm like, I'm going to get rooked on that one. And obviously he's going to get a night off today. Doesn't look like that way. But again, we've talked about the minutes caps there. So Barrett is like a mini Scotty Barnes from a fantasy perspective. He's averaging almost 22 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, almost 6 assists, and 1.1 stocks. That's this season. He averaged pretty much exactly that, a little less on the assists last year in his 32 games with Toronto. So we have a really good sample size of what he's going to do. So I think he's a perfectly fine building block today. It's one of those guys where it's like the upside potential needs to be super efficient or a lot of stocks like we saw last night with Barnes. What do you think about RJ, and what else do you like from any guards we haven't mentioned yet?
I like RJ. I think I like him more than Barnes at lower ownership, cheaper price tag, and he didn't play last night. Barnes is the better fantasy producer, and he's going to outscore Barrett most of the time. That's why he's more expensive. But I think there's less concerns with Barrett than there is with Barnes here, personally.
Okay. That, I think, is fair. How are you feeling about Tyler Hero, Jaylen Brown in that marquee matchup against the Lakers? Houston's got Jalen Green. We've got Dyson Daniels, Kobe White, Austin Reeves, who has played 1 game since his return, had trouble finding his range from the field, but that should come around. What else is here for you, or is it just kind of, I'll accept those guys on my lineups, no targets?
From the shooting guard?
From any of the other guard spots.
Yeah, it's really the Indy guys, Toronto guys. The one guy that I wanted to call out that I do like is Trey Jones, 4,600, playing big minutes right now for Chicago, and he looks good in doing so. So I got no issue with some Trey Jones at 4,600 as a last piece or filler option at all.
All right. Giannis probable, Kobe White playing. The rest is Tuesday news there. Oh, Gary Trent Jr. out. He was doubtful, so no surprise. And then Andrew Wiggins going to be a game time decision. Excuse me, with that ankle. Excuse me. Speaking of Andrew Wiggins, what do we got on the forward front here, Matt? We got half the show gone, so we should be getting some more news trickling in here. You got Giannis at the top. You got Tatum and LeBron locked into this epic battle. Two resurgent franchises here, storied franchises with, well, Boston's not really resurgent. They're at the top of their game, but the Lakers, what is that, 8 wins now? Do they get a 9th? Since the Doncic trade? Do they put the blade further into the heart of Dallas fans here? What do you want from the forwards?
You got to expect this is a big time performance from Boston in this spot. They've shown out in big games. The Lakers have been great. I mean, great win for them against the Knicks. They've been phenomenal. They're a legit threat in the West. I don't think there's any doubt about it, but they're 7-point underdogs here. I do expect their winning streak to end. As far as the forward position goes, we talked about Barrett and Barnes. They obviously both look good here. The Indiana guys, Pascal Siakam, namely, I think is one of the best plays on the slate. I mean, no Halliburton. He's just way too cheap at under 8K. So I like Halliburton. I mean, I like Siakam, excuse me. I like Tatum. It's hard to get there at his projection, although no one like expensive is really projected that great. So I think spending up on Tatum isn't a bad move at all. Forward, as always, a little bit weaker. Guard position looks stronger. That's why I like Siakam a lot. I think you can always play like LeBron because it's LeBron. Other than that, like, let me see the tools. Tari Eason, 5,600. He looks good. So there's not really, I don't have a strong stance at the forward position, except for Siakam is a guy I like a lot here. And then I guess I do like Tari Eason more than I thought.
So Tari Eason is someone who is intriguing. We know what we're getting at this point. They're being careful. He's missed a ton of games over his career with lower leg issues. So they don't want to overwork him. I think they've found a good cadence for the maintenance. He's got about a 28-minute baseline. That's kind of if you're doing projections or you're looking at what people are doing across the industry, that's probably a good starting point. And that's even with Jabari Smith back. So he is someone that in his last 11 games, he's got 7 starts, 4 times off the bench. Houston kind of changes things around without Fred VanVleet, and what are they doing with Amen Thompson, and et cetera, et cetera. But in these 11 games, 29 in the third minutes, 14 points, almost 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2.7 stocks. That's what makes him super intriguing. And with his role kind of shifting here and there in the missed games, the salary algorithms don't quite have him elevated to his potential upside, and he can get there quickly with the stocks. Who's a good example of that? Well, teammate Amen Thompson, right? What's happened with him? Well, nothing other than his salary has gone up. So Easton is like Thompson light, right? So for those of you that have not been paying attention, Thompson has really seen his salary jump, but now that doesn't take away his raw points. It just takes away his point per dollar, which is aka the profits that he can get there, and it makes his boom and his bust numbers almost inverted. Depending on today, they were very close to break even, but meaning just as likely to bust because of his high salary. We're still projecting him for low 40s fantasy points. You can see a path to 50. That's not a problem. But if he doesn't get to 40 fantasy points, that's a bust because he's approaching $9,000. So that's why Eason is becoming more appealing, because while he doesn't have the upside as Thompson, he does for his price range. So those two guys I think are good, especially going against Nolans here. Anything else from the forward spot? Look at that, 24 minutes left.
It's flying by. Yeah, I got one other guy I like a lot here. And this is a guy I've been right on like a bunch recently, so I feel good about it. Doesn't mean it's going to continue, but I've been on him when he's been great and off him when he's been not great and popular. Paolo Banchero, 9,200 now. Price jump. It's been getting higher. He was like 8K a week ago, but a bunch of guys on this slate have seen their prices increase. That's why Toronto looks so good, is because those guys haven't. I like Banchero a lot here. I expect if this game is competitive, Banchero is a huge reason why. We've seen his upside and his ability to just take games over. He's overpriced for his median projection, but he certainly has upside as he's shown a bunch recently. He's not getting much love at all. I like Banchero a lot here.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not like him. Franz Wagner sort of kept pace, different stats, and he got the stocks in the last game where Banchero did not. So they, on a point per dollar basis, were about the same. But Banchero is going to be the guy we want to go to more often than not, especially now with Jalen Suggs out, which puts a little bit more of the offensive creation onto Wagner, as opposed to him playing more off ball. They still have Cole Anthony, but who I think is an interesting play today. But Banchero is, I think he highlights better than Wagner. If we look at the overall projections on FanDuel here, 65% for Sheed, 53% for McConnell. Alperen Şengün comes in at 3, Draymond at 4, Amen Thompson at 5, then Hero, Barrett, Daniels round out the top 8. So similar on the both sides, except Alperen Şengün coming in really high as a center only option, which is always fun to just see what's out there at center only on FanDuel. So your only opportunity cost, because you can play all the other guys at power forward, would be the likes of a Miles Turner or Yves Missy. And Missy, the expectation is right. He's going to be playing alongside Kelly Olynyk and Zion tonight. So that with Zion there, that just takes a ton of usage away from the other guys. But moving towards our power forward / centers, how you like in Şengün, Green, etc. here are not very many top end options. I guess we can throw Bam Adebayo in there too against Chicago.
Yeah, so I like Şengün a lot. Always, he looks good here. Not sure I want to allocate that much of my salary for him, but he looks good as a spend up option. Miles Turner is going to look like the best option for me here at 6,500. I think Okongwu looks good, $100 more than him, but no Halliburton. The Indy guys are just all too cheap. I got no problem playing a bunch of Indy in all my lineups. Great spot against Atlanta. They're a good team. I like Miles Turner the most here. I think Pirtle looks really good. The tools like him. Can't expect big minutes, but he's really cheap now for what he can do on the floor. So, yeah, center is probably a position I'm mostly looking at the mid-tier.
All right. Pirtle, one of the more popular plays on DraftKings, coming in at about 30% there. Just really doesn't have anybody to worry about on the Washington side of things. The rookie, Sarr, and then veteran Rashawn Holmes. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever. Pirtle should be able to get what he wants. His minutes have come up. He's still not at the level he was before he missed those 8 games with the hip pointer, however. So important to understand that. 20 minutes to go here. Let's see if we have any premium chats. We do. Brajal Patel says just applause for that Joker stat line. I agree. That's phenomenal. Good call out on that, Matt. That kind of blew me away there. A second triple-double after he got a first. Just nuts.
Absolutely insane.
Chris Albers with the question of the night. So we'll use this to transition into looking at other news and looking at the overarching board in general. He says, just got here. Any must plays for tonight? DK20 max. Indy backcourt, Toronto backcourt. But where do you want to spend, Matt, now that we know Giannis is in?
I don't think there's any must spend up options today. I think that Giannis is always in play. Cade, your guy that you like a lot, in play always. None of the studs are in particularly great spots, and they've been priced up a little bit. So you're certainly going to need to allocate your salary on studs because the raw points are going to matter. But, you know, I don't think I have a strong opinion between like Giannis and Luka and Tatum. I probably like the Boston or the Lakers guys less just because of the spot they're in, but Boston's probably going to be healthier. I might like Tatum the most if Porzingis is out, but we'll have to see on that. I don't have a strong take on who to spend up on. I think it's more about just, filling out your roster and then kind of whoever falls in your lap. I don't think you have to spend up on anyone because the mid-tier also looks good between Siakam and Barnes and Barrett. So I think there's quite a few ways to build tonight.
All right, let's see what we've got once we push the Sims. Let's look at some FanDuel love here. Chad, I'll look for some other questions as we get in, but let's see if this doesn't break things. Would you guys play Nembhard and McConnell together on FanDuel? I wouldn't have any issues, and those guys are going to see enough minutes apart that it should not be that big of a deal. Again, we are projecting McConnell for 20.9 minutes. I don't think he'll play much more than 24. So that should be enough time for those guys to separate because they're two better ball handlers. So them playing alongside each other probably isn't going to happen unless it's in the closing lineup or late in the fourth quarter. And it may not even be the closing lineup because you could see Siakam kind of handle that secondary facilitator. Plus Matherin's back. He could be a secondary guy, and then that has less of a need for a defensive liability like TJ McConnell at the end there. Pirtle or Turner on DK, asks Matthew Cummings.
It's going to be Turner for me. I know you get a price discount with Pirtle, and he's as good, maybe a little bit of a better producer per minute, but Turner's going to play a bunch more here than Pirtle. So I like Pirtle more, or I like Turner more, but I think they're both wildly in play, is how I'd put it.
All right. How do you like George Yang as a last play in?
As a last play in, I don't think he looks bad. He's 4,200, but certainly not a guy I'm like going out of my way to build around.
All right, let's take a pick. Wow, EMac hates TJ. No, I don't. And I would espouse for him when he was doing this similar role with the 76ers when he was 5 years younger. He's not a spring chicken anymore. It's a big difference. Him getting more than 24 fantasy points is not going to happen with great frequency. Let me quickly look up this season, how many times he's gotten there. Now, if I want to be the old fuddy-duddy, that's fine. TJ McConnell has played more than 24 minutes on 4 occasions this season. 4. That's out of 58 games. Now, of course, Halliburton hasn't missed all of those games, but point being, they don't have to go to him. Guys, they don't have to go to him. And why doesn't he move into the starting lineup? Because they like him with his particular rotations and with the second unit. I was the guy. Oh no, I'm blanking on his name. Who is the guy from Dallas? JJ Barea. Remember when you get JJ Barea nights? Absolutely no business out there. Yet there he is.
That's a good one. That's a real good one. In the paint,
he's around the rim. He's getting the rebounds. Somehow he's doing weird stuff, and they're not paying attention, and he's getting close in baskets. I love that kind of player. Why? Because I'm like 5'8". That's me if I'm playing real basketball. Those got a soft spot in my heart for those guys. Why do you think I like Fred VanVleet so much, right? A little bit short, a little bit doughy, not quite as athletic as everybody else. I love these guys, but you got to understand when they have their role and when they're getting out of their comfort zone. Oh, Matthew Dellavedova. There you go. There's another guy, right? These guards that
Barea was a fantasy monster, though. Not Dellavedova never was.
No, Dellavedova wasn't. DeLon Wright had moments. Didn't DeLon Wright kind of invent that third guard slot 9 years ago in Toronto, which begat Fred VanVleet, which had who was it? Linsanity, and when he was on his last legs. He had time in Toronto and Atlanta, right? Love those kind of guys, but that's not who McConnell is anymore. All right, I had to get that. Teen Wolf, there you go. EMac, even you was you? Yeah, JJ. No. I have. Not only am I not tall, I jump. We used to call. Do they still call it a credit card jumper? Where you could barely slide a credit card under you when you jumped. That was something that we used to say way back in the day. All right. 13 minutes to go. Let's see what we got here on FanDuel. We got a Sims up here. We're getting 74%. Jamal Sheed, for someone who's a hater, and haters going to hate, watch this. Going to be capping TJ McConnell at 40% if I have my numbers lock on here. Draymond Green, 60%. Ooh, that feels a little high. Let's go 40 with that. Tari Eason looks good. Franz Wagner, I'm okay with all these guys. Let's see. How did Scotty with the field on Scotty? So I don't like that. I want to be a little above the field. So what we're going to do, and for you guys wondering, we got some requests to say, all right, EMac, you talk about this stuff, but show us on the screen when you're not getting your lineups in on time. So you saw me cap a few of the guys I didn't want to go too high on, but now I can start looking here. I'm in the ROI boosts. So if I look at Scotty Barnes, I wanted him a little bit higher. Let's give him a couple clicks. We'll go up 10%. I wanted Barrett a little higher than the field because I'm matching the field. We'll give him 3 clicks. He was the cover boy today on my article. Sheed, I'm totally fine getting that. Şengün, I think, is pretty awesome. Eason, let's give him a bump. Oh, we're already above the field there, so I like that. I think he's going to be more than 22%. I'll just give him 1 click. But you can do that. You come in, redo your favorites, and voila, you now have your revised player portfolio. That's really all it is for this. So we can go look at Barrett, and we can see now just putting him up 15%, that's pretty high. All right, I don't really want 40% of him, so I'm just going to take the ROI boost down 1. I could go in and cap him, but I wouldn't kill him. I would set a ceiling, right? I wouldn't cap him. Phrasing that. It's all about phrasing.
Got that. I think okay.
I'm kind of a violent person, so I worry when people when I say things out of line like that. So let's look at Barnes. Spell his name right. 32%. I'm fine with that. We'll leave him as is. Boost our ROI. We'll go fix that, and then we'll go upload these. But that's all you got to do for that. Oh, Doncic, I see Doncic all day. Should I get some late night hammer, some 8:30 action? Where is Doncic on this? He's not very popular. We'll give him a couple clicks just because you guys brought him up. Let's give Tatum a little love. Oh, I don't have any Tatum. Put him at 20%. Now, what this is going to happen is that 25% ROI boost may still not get him into my player portfolio because there's only 3% of all the lineups I built have him. So you need to understand how this works. So if you really wanted him and he wasn't coming in with an ROI boost, you would need to rerun these and give him a higher projection. And then that way they would appear more. Now, at that point, you're messing up the sims. You're changing what it's like for the rest of the field, etc. Right? You're really putting your thumb on the scale. But sometimes if you want to get a player, that's what you have to do. So even with the 25% ROI boost, I only have 1% Tatum. I'll fix that later since there's only 1 game. All right, 10 minutes to go here. Yeah, Guitar Seaman says it good. I run and rerun and add boosts to the contest generator, therefore achieving more lineups that coordinate with my beliefs, my projections. Absolutely. That's a far more succinct way to say it than what I did. But what you're doing in that situation is just kind of getting what you'd like. And that's what it's all about here. So, all right, let's get these uploaded. I'm not going to worry about the old Yahoo lineups. And let's see if we have more questions here so I can close out FanDuel. Are you playing on DK tonight, I'm assuming?
I am playing on DK.
How many lineups?
3 lineups.
Who are you going to play? How many Tari Eason lineups? Are you going with all 3?
No, 1 of 3.
1 of 3. How many Giannis lineups?
0 of 3.
Ooh, how many Lillard?
0 of 3.
Okay, who am I missing?
I mean, you only said 3 players. Like, what do you mean?
Any Şengün?
0 Şengün.
All right. Where are you making your stand? Is there any player in all 3 of your lineup?
Yeah, a bunch of players in all 3. I have no problem building with continuity. on some nights. Some nights I don't do that. Some nights I do. I'll tell you a couple of guys I'm playing in all three. Nemhard, Jamal Shed, and Miles Turner.
Sell me on Miles Turner. That is a name I was not expecting to hear. I'm sure chat would like to hear a little bit more.
He looks phenomenal here. Matched up against Atlanta and their weak front court. No Halliburton. Usage is going to be up. Mm-hmm. He had a really good first half, not so good of a second half last time out. Don't love that, but I just think all the Indiana guys are underpriced for this matchup with no Halliburton. And yeah, they did get a price bump, but there just aren't that many great plays on this slate outside of Toronto. And I already said my feelings about Barnes. Like, he looks great here, but he's also over-owned, and I'm more inclined to get away from him. So I've got salary to spend, and I like the mid-tier a lot, and Turner certainly fits that bill.
No, that is a sound way to do things, and you guys have seen Matt do enough of these. You know that he vacillates between building by hand, leveraging some of the tools regardless, and then sometimes he'll build a larger portfolio. But what he's doing right now by taking Turner is creating a different build than the stars and scrubs lineups that everybody's going to try to land on. Why? Well, because the stars and scrubs lineups are usually the way to go. But as we've seen, when the herd is strong, sometimes you need to find ways to be a little bit different, especially if you have some convictions. So that's why you saw me changing some of my stuff here in the Sims. That's why Guitar Z-Man, who has done quite well for himself in the DFS world, does a few things differently, right? This is where you put your spin on it. You put your stamp on what you feel comfortable with. And that's something we get questions, right? How many players do you want to use? Who are you backloading in the slate tonight? Are you capping somebody? How many uniques are you using? And the answer is, what is your style of play? What are you trying to accomplish, etc. So those are the key things. All right, let's see if there are questions, because I talked, so people are probably mad. Hey, guess what? There's a bonus for you guys. I will not be on the show tomorrow. Oh, okay. Why? Well, because not only is it, what are we springing forward tonight, Matt? I am taking or accompanying Mama Mac back to Washington State tomorrow. So we will be getting up at 3:30 in the morning, which is really 2:30. So we can get up to Tampa for a 7 o'clock flight all the way across the country to Seattle, and then another flight puddle jumper over the mountains to where she lives. It's going to be a very long day on not a lot of sleep, because I have a draft tonight I got to do. So I am going to be Mr. Grumpy tomorrow, but you guys will get Greg instead. So that should be worth a few likes here. 2,300 people. Let's make sure that at least half of you show up tomorrow. But let's hit some likes for tonight. All right, let's quickly look at what I got here for favorite 100. Let's see. I bet we got a lot of Toronto up at the top. Ooh. Lawson at 70%. You know what? I'm a little nervous about that guy. We're gonna go 55. Shed. I'm gonna go. I think he's gonna be more. I want to be above the field. We'll take 73. That must be a sign. Tari Eason, I like him, but I don't really want to go above 50%. Let's see if anybody else. Oh, McConnell. There you go. I got to hate on McConnell. I'm going to drop him back to 20. I'm going under the field on McConnell. There we go. Is there not an AI EMac? Oh, no. There was only one EMac. The mold broke. The giant stone tablets broke that had the recipe on how to, or the instructions on how to create me. So you only get one of me. With Hayes out, do you like Trey Jameson? No, not tonight. Too many other options. Trey Jameson going against the Boston front court, even if they're without Porzingis, not exactly exciting.
Agreed.
Podziemski. Do you think Podziemski plays tonight? Did we get any news on that? I know he's 50-50.
I think he's a game time
Still
decision.
questionable. Back soreness. Sam Hauser questionable. Drew Holiday still questionable. Porzingis still questionable. Oh, did get some starting lineup. So 3 minutes to go though. You guys will already know what those are going to be because I'm going to get some. I got to get my lineups in. Let's see if we got where we wanted. That's a lot of Toronto. I'm gonna back off just a tiny. You know what? No, I'm exactly with the field on Scotty Barnes. I can't mess that up. We gotta go Cade Cunningham a little more. Let's go with Doncic, and let's go with Brown. Ooh, there's not much Brown. I'm about to rerun these lineups. And Tatum. All right. The Vaya con Dios. Das Vidania play of the night. 2 minutes to go. Let's download these. And let's give it the old randomizer to get it into the different contest types that I have. Favored a few of these lineups. Josh Giddey. How did we not mention Josh Giddey tonight? Any interest in him? Because he's in my fourth highest lineup.
Toronto lineup just came out. I mean, no, not really in Giddey. Not a great matchup. I mean, he's been playing well, but I'm not going out of my way for him. Barnes, Shed, Lawson, Barrett, Pirtle.
Okay, that sounds pretty close to what the Stokastics free lineup page had. I like that. It's a fun little addition here. So for you guys, I'll drop the link in here as we wind things down. For the lineups page, let's see if I can get to that quickly. So this is a lot of fun because it tells you what the Stokastic projection teams is thinking throughout the day. So if you go, where is it? Why am I? Oh, projected starters. I'm looking for a lineup page and it's not there. Not using the words I expect. So as people come in, they turn green, but you can see the different stuff. So there's Sheed, Lawson, Barrett, Barnes, Birtle. Here's some notes. Emmanuel Quickly, Mobo, Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, and Akbaji are all out. There you go. Fun little stuff in there. All right. We are 1 minute away from lock. Is it going to be a Jordan Poole party tonight? No, not so much. Not so much. Who are you terrified of not having in this first game here, Matt?
Şengün. I mean,
Şengün.
He's a monster. I love him.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hit that like button on the way out. And come on back tomorrow. You're going to get Matt and Greg. So special appearance by Mr. Ehrenberg on a Sunday. But with that, gamers, good luck.